I could have started with and actually finished with just this picture because it's a very realistic mix of the legacy infrastructure, new technologies, important stakeholders, and beautiful views of Birmingham. But I have more slides. And in the next half an hour, we are going to basically follow this structure. So we always say that we aim to do something good about value using different verbs, but it looks like we are not always very successful in that. So the question is why and what we can do better to increase our chances to deliver on those promises.
Will we get a copy of the slides?
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Yes? Yeah. Yes. So from my side, absolutely. From the SDI side, I hope so. So depending on who we are and what we are doing, whether we are product teams or service teams or executives defining a strategy, or maybe we are doing some value stream mapping exercise, or maybe we are just sitting at a service support team or the service desk team. Either way, we say that we are aiming to increase the chances for realizing some value for our customers and other stakeholders. We can use different verbs. Some people say they deliver value. Some people say they enable or facilitate value, but that's generally the intention, right? Yes. However, it feels like we are not always very successful at this. So we fail too often. Who's saying that? It's not me. Do you know who is the guy? You've never heard of Paul Wilkinson. You should have, because he retired a couple of years ago, or that's what he says. He just came back. So you still have some chances to catch up in life. Paul Wilkinson is a co-founder and probably known most for the company called GamingWorks. They created such wonderful business simulations that probably some of you have experienced, as Apollo 13, Challenge of Egypt, Mars Lander among the most recent ones, and some not so well-known ones like 2020 or Grab a Pizza. Its business simulations are largely in IT service management or project management domain. Among other things he did, he created a product which is a powerful tool, which is called ABC of ICT. It's a card deck with 54 or maybe a bit more anti-patterns of things that we usually do wrong in terms of, it says ABC of ICT, so attitude, behavior, and culture, A, B, and C. And they are ancient. These decks, these cards, they feature diskette floppy disks and like CRT monitors and stuff like that, but they are still very valid in terms of the actual things we are doing wrong. And a couple of years ago, when, as I mentioned, Paul announced that he was going to retire, he had a world tour of what he called the new shiny thing that really helps. It's a famous name for his presentation. It's very sarcastic. And he just took his old ABC of ICT stuff and presented it as something new and shiny and very promising, because we tend to jump on new shiny things that really help. And in preparation for that tour and for that presentations, he conducted a number of surveys, the last one just in February, together with our PeopleCert members. So a few hundred people responded to his survey. And in that survey, he asked people about how they are doing in such important 5 areas as strategic fit, leadership, culture, skills, and continual improvement. His presentation usually features something very flashy, like this slide, with a number of evidence on how most of our initiatives tend to fail. And the formal results of measuring these 5 areas: strategic fit, leadership, culture, skills, and continual learning. And you see that on average, on the scale from 1 to 6, we are somewhere between 3 and 4. So not really at a very good place, in a very good place. If you never came across Paul's presentation and this story of the new shiny thing, when the deck is shared, you can watch his latest presentation on the topic using this QR code. So I think it's not only Paul. I just didn't want it to be my statement that everyone keeps failing, because he has data and it's impressively looking. Why do we keep failing at our value creation initiatives? I think there are two questions, and one of them is more about objectively existing external factors, and the other one is about the way we operate and how we are not always ready for those objectively existing external factors. And I want to present three models. One is Canevin model. Anyone who sees this first time in their life? Okay. The other one is a famous user perception model. Have you seen this one? Okay, if you haven't seen this one, that you probably need a context. It's actually part of a comic strip of two parts, and the first one I removed. The first one shows two happy parents at the baby's bed with a mobile looking at those rotating animals from the top and being very happy because they look really nice. And this is the user perception of the same mobile, the same animals seen by the baby. So different understanding of value by different stakeholders. First one was complexity. The second one is different understanding of value. The third one is the silo mentality of our industry, which causes silo mentality in our organization. So silos in the industry, they provoke silos in the business. In the rest of the presentation, I will go through some recommendations on how to address each of these. So let's start with complexity. We live in a complex environment. Many people use VUCA, a famous abbreviation, which stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. That's the world around us. I think no one will argue with that. The level of complexity is growing. And probably the best way to deal with this is to embrace it. Things are not going to be simple. Things are not going to be clear in terms of this model, which is called Canevin, Welsh word, spelled as Cinefin over there, but pronounced as Canevin. And if you haven't seen this before, then probably one of the most valuable takeaways from this day will be to go to our canevin.io. It's an open wiki run by the people who created this framework some years ago. Dave Snowden is the name of the founder. And it's really practical and useful knowledge. In a very simplistic way, because we don't have time for a deep dive into this, situations around us can be described as clear when we know what's happening, we know the cause and effect relationship, we can predict the results, and we can use fixed constraints such as procedures, such as step-by-step guides. From the service desk perspective, from the IT support perspective, the example would be a very well-known incident repeating, or let's say a service request. In most cases, we can follow a clearly defined procedure and achieve the desired results. However, if we are in a situation of an incident that is less known and maybe haven't happened before, and we need some expert knowledge, we cannot just follow the route because there is no known route. And we have to change our approach from sense, categorize, and apply the categorization to respond, to sense, analyze, respond. And this is where we escalated to some specialist team, and the specialist team applies their analytic skills and subject matter knowledge. And we have governing constraints, which are generic process, for instance. So they stay within certain rules, but the exact way of solving this incident will be emerging as a result of the analysis. Sense, analyze, respond. Another situation, we are in a complex situation where we tried escalating to those guys, and they said, no, sorry, it's not us. And the other guys say the same. And that ping pong stopped at some point, hopefully. And we decided, oh, we might need a swarm. We need to think together, we need to experiment, we need to hypothesize, and we need to use enabling constraints. Example of enabling constraints is guiding principles, to experiment, probe, sense the results, and respond according to the best results. And finally, sometimes we are in a chaotic situation where we don't have the luxury of experimenting, and we have to just act. You know, you walk in a jungle, you meet a tiger. You don't have a prescriptive guidance for that case. You don't have time to analyze. You don't have time to experiment. You just run or climb or pretend being dead or whatever strategy you prefer. And if you are lucky, then you know that it was successful. If you are less lucky, then somebody else will probably dismiss it from their strategies in the future if they find out. The idea is not that we are constantly in one of these states. These are contextual states, and we have to orient, we have to look around, and we have to apply the relevant heuristics rather than keeping to our well-known procedures, because that's the way we used to go every time before. And this is why modern best practice frameworks are not actually best practice, and they combine approaches to best practice, good practice, accepted practices, which evolve. And that's the only way to survive these days. And we have to embrace it. We have to get some theory, better than just one slide told in 3 minutes. We have to learn how to apply it, know which constraints we have to apply in each situation. Stop planning for 5 years ahead. Even strategic planning doesn't work for 5 years ahead. And if you just budget for 5 years, make some steps for 5 years, and continue following that route, then in 5 years you will find yourself anywhere, but not in that place that you wanted to be, because things around keep changing. Experiment, ideally safe to fail, or relatively safe to fail, and adjust your business as usual from trying to create an instruction for every exception to learning how to be more creative, more agile with small a, and more intelligently disobedient. The second part, and that's related actually, because we keep in the complex environment, we have changing stakeholder landscape. We keep changing requirements. We keep changing expectations. So the idea is to know the stakeholders, and it's not only users, it's not only customers. I will give you just one example here. We often think and talk about user experience and customer experience. You know, in ITIL, if you know that in ITIL, there are 3 core roles described in the consumer organization. User, who uses the services. Customer, who defines requirements for services and takes responsibility for the outcomes of using services. And sponsors, who pay for the services. In business environment, this may be 3 very different groups of people who never talk to each other. In personal B2C environment, it may be one person. Where in my relationship with Vodafone, I am the customer, I am the sponsor, and I am the user when it comes to mobile network, mobile services. But even if we look at this relationship a bit wider, then, for instance, for our teenager, I am the sponsor and the customer, and he is the user. And I define what are the requirements for the safety net settings on his phone or for bill caps. So different important roles. In terms of experience, user experience is mostly shaped by interactions with our products and services, and to some extent by interactions with the service provider. So users are as happy as the, let's say, applications are user-friendly and high-performing and functional, etc. And to some extent, it depends also on how our service desk is working, right? As a customer, if this is a different group and different journey, I am mostly interacting with the service provider management system, and I don't use the actual service directly. When I use it, I'm in the user hat. So as a customer, my perception, my user journey, my customer journey, my experience are shaped by the management system of the provider rather than by the actual product, services, and interfaces. And we have to take that into account when we think of expectations of those stakeholders, when we try to improve their experience, when we try measuring it, etc. Measuring is a very limited exercise. We keep seeing this: if you don't measure, then you don't manage. First, it's just not true. There are many examples of management which is not based on measurement and based on direct observation. When you ride a horse, you don't measure anything, but you can manage. Another important thing is not only rely on data, but also observe behavior, listen to stories, and you will find out a lot about listening to stories and generating more stories you want to hear and less stories you don't want to hear from the complexity theory from the previous slide. So it's closely linked. Capture, measure, and discuss experience of different stakeholders and understand that they have different experience and different journeys and different touch points. And another important thing, we often focus on experience, happiness, and value for our consumers, and forget that actually the happier our employees are, the happier our customers and users are. So make the happiness and experience and value for your employees a predictor of those effects for your customers. It's impossible to have happy customers with deeply unhappy employees. Not in the long term. And another example are a couple of diagrams from ITIL, just to show you that and to remind you that agreed and measured service quality actually represents a very small part of the real needs. The link on this slide, I will show the illustration to that statement on the next slide, but before we move, this is a link to a video combining two perspectives, the measurement of experience and stakeholder management and complexity, because it's an interview that the founder of that complexity tool, Kanevin, gave to the guys from Happy Signals, the wonderful Pinky booth over there. And it's 1 hour of your time that you will not regret. Highly recommended. Back to that statement that agreed and measured service quality represents only a small part of the real needs. These are a couple of diagrams from the service level management practice guide from ITIL. One for tailored services, when you can adjust your services and generally negotiate with the customer from the design stage. This one for out-of-the-box services that you offer to the market, usually based on your understanding of marketing data, etc. I'm not even going into how they can be completely in different place. But even if we are discussing the right things, the customer needs are only partially represented by communications from the customer or customer representative. Then we negotiate with the provider and we agreed service requirements that are only part of the articulated needs. And then we take responsibility for only part of them in our service level agreements. Similarly, when we look at the out of the box, we have a scope of consumer needs. Only some of them will be captured by our service designers and architects. Only some of them will be purposefully included in the service design. And only some of them will be legally confirmed or formally confirmed in the SLAs. So this is what we measure. This is what we use as a reference point for assessing how good we are. And this is how good we are supposed to be. And that's inevitably decreasing scope for various reasons. Losses in translation, some distortion of communication, lack of ability or readiness to take legal responsibility for some of these things in our formal agreements, etc., etc. We usually over-deliver compared to what we have here, but we usually under-deliver compared to what is actually needed or expected. It's another rabbit hole. I'm not going deeper, but our SLM, Service Level Management Practice Guide in ITIL may help. To the last part, which is another rabbit hole for another 3 hours, but we don't have them. There is a clear silo or bubbles, silos or bubbles, if you want. There are clear silos or bubbles in the industry, and you can describe them as dev and ops, or you can describe them as people who think of themselves as of product people and people who think of themselves as of service people. Every digital product has a potential value. These people say, product people usually say, we deliver value, usually by deploying products and putting them somewhere on the shelf where people will start using them. If that was true, then value would be realized by the time actual, for instance, goods, some food is put on the shelf in the supermarket. No, the value is realized if somebody bought it, cooked it, ate it, and remained happy and alive. Same with digital products. Value is not realized when we deploy it. There is a potential, but in order to realize the value, someone should start using it. The main form or the only form of using digital products is digital services. So digital services are always based on digital products. Digital products, value is always realized through digital services. They have a shared life cycle. It's not two different stories. It's one story, which is very yin and yang in the nature. They are intertwined and should be managed together. We have a model, work in progress. Maybe it will be a different model, but we've been playing with it for about a year now, which includes 8 steps of this life cycle, from discovery to design to acquire, build, transition, operate, deliver, and support. And each of these may be applied to product and service, more product than service, more service than product, but it's always together. And our management system can follow this route and should be adjusted for collaboration, which means she should be adjusted to focus on value, think and work holistically, collaborate and promote visibility. And some of you recognize that these are 3 of the 7 guiding principles in ITIL, right? The other 4 could be here as well, it's just an illustration. It's easier to do if you have multidisciplinary teams rather than siloed organization. It's easier to do if you understand which parts of these things you are responsible for and map your operating model accordingly. And it's easier to do if you identify, map, and improve value streams in your operating model. Just to illustrate, this thing is the product or service life cycle. For an instance of a product service, it's a cycle, it's a loop. But we don't manage in the loop. Discovery doesn't necessarily follow support, right? In fact, we have these activities, and these activities can be presented as a chain. You've seen it in many diagrams, including some ITIL diagrams, which is not always also the best way of describing it. It's not a sequence either. It's not a loop, but it's not a predefined sequence. The useful way to think of this is to think of this as of stepping stones, like this. You cross the stream, and you don't always step on all of them on a predefined order, or you may come back a little, or you may make some circles. If you think of the stepping stones not even in the stream, but think of a round pond and stepping stones in that pond, and you can walk in multiple directions in more or less any combination of them. These practical, real combinations of these activities used in specific context to create products and deliver services are called value streams. So we can have a value stream which starts with some need of the customer, goes through discover, design, acquire, build, transition, operate, deliver, and they are happy. We may have a value stream which starts with some idea that came to us from, AI, we can use it. No one asked us. If they knew what it will look like, they would never ask us. But we are very excited about AI. So we decided, we can design it. We can have some additional resources. We don't need to build anything. We just transition, operate, support, deliver. Or we don't deliver it ourselves. Our business for this service is just operates and support what other people have designed, built, acquired, and transitioned. We are an operation-focused organization for this particular service. This has been done by Microsoft. This is done by us. Or we discovered some idea, AI, we designed it, acquired necessary resources, built, tested. We didn't like what we've seen. We redesigned it. And then we went down. Multiple scenarios are possible. Multiple routes through the stepping stones are possible. That's why value streams are always emerging and describe the factor situations, the factor streams of work rather than some models. Another bonus recommendation for this, value stream mapping, as it's perceived and practiced, is often over-focused on eliminating waste. It's often perceived as a tool to just identify the bottlenecks, identify the delays, and remove them and optimize the flow. It's very important, but it's not enough. Think of, I don't know, DHL, DPD, Royal Mail, your favorite Yodel of this world. They can be optimizing the flow. They don't, apparently, based on our user experience, but they can be optimizing the flow. They don't care what they deliver. They are not responsible for the value of what you will receive, right? We should. So in our value stream mapping, we are not only responsible for making it in the most efficient way, we are also responsible for delivering what is needed. So the substance of the flow is also important, not only the organization. To sum it up, key takeaways from these three quadrant-looking models. Embrace complexity, learn how to deal with this, and adjust your management accordingly. Observe behavior, listen to stories, measure and improve experience. Do not over-rely on data, and know your experience, your stakeholders, and understand their view on your services. Form multidisciplinary teams, embrace or improve collaboration, and manage products and services through their integrated lifecycle. In this case, I'm emphasizing the need for collaboration between people who think in products and in services. Dev and ops, if you like. Finally, identify, map, and improve value streams. The actual flows that you use to create something good for your users and customers. And maybe, as a result, you will have very happy users and customers and other stakeholders satisfied with not only the quality, but also value of whatever you do for them. More or less like this Birmingham statue. I think I managed more or less to squeeze it into 30 minutes. Do we have time for a question? If we have questions, then we have time for them. Yes.
Do you think you could get to the point where you could actually express the value of an IT service? So could I say the value of Office 365 to my organisation is £10 million. It costs £3 million.
Monetary value, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, how else would you express that? What's the unit of measurement for value?
So the formula that we usually use is based on the combination of the outcomes, costs, and risks. When we receive a service, we aim to achieve certain outcomes which are beneficial for us. There will be some outcomes that we will be deprived of because of this, and some outcomes that we didn't want but we will receive. The good part should outweigh the bad part. Same with costs and risks. We reduce or remove some costs, we reduce or remove some risks when we choose to receive service rather than do it ourselves. But we at the same time introduce some costs and risks when we engage with the service provider and get some dependencies. Some of this outcome part, so some characteristics of the outcome part, can be monetary, not all of them, because it may be happier customers, better reputation, some things that are not necessarily expressible in pounds and dollars. But some of them can, because one of the outcomes can be to reduce the cost of achieving certain results, of doing some stuff, or improving sales, or improving profit. And that may be directly impacted by some of the digital services, maybe even Office 365, compared to, for instance, whatever we were using before, or alternatives available on the market. It will be a combination, because the cost is an important part of that equation, but it's not the only monetary part we can focus on, because outcomes can be financial and non-financial. Costs usually are financial. So we achieve this, cheaper. We achieve that, more expensive. We achieve that, cheaper, or more expensive. And we have to balance this from different perspectives. It's possible. Business cases are built like this. The problem with that is that we usually model these benefits, costs, and risks based on our understanding of cause and effect which works better in simple or clear domain of the Connevin and doesn't work really well in complex and complicated. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we won't achieve what we want. That acceptive domain, the word acceptive means that something, it's a biological term, comes from evolution, where something that was originally intended as one thing evolved into another thing. And that happens to IT services as well. Something that was like Amazon, which originally was designed as a bookshop, emerged into a global marketplace. And whoever was investing in Amazon, for instance, I'm making it up, but whoever could be investing in Amazon at the bookshop days would probably be modeling the accepted benefits and accepted value of this, expected value of this, based on the performance of a bookshop, not the global marketplace. The opposite examples also exist, of course. Nokia. So that's the problem. But in some perspective, with some acceptable precision, we can model it and justify it. And this is why in complexity theory, change is not a destination, it's a direction. If we are moving from this in the right direction, we are in a good place. It's not KPI, it's the vector. Sorry, it probably was supposed to be much shorter. Thank you, everyone. I see that we already are getting overcrowded for the next presentation. Hello, Simon, and the stage is, or will be soon, yours, I think. Yes?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.